invitato a venire qui alla Festa del Cinema, gli ho chiesto se voleva parlare di sceneggiatura, essendo lui, oltre che un eccellente regista, un grande sceneggiatore. E lui mi ha detto: vengo alla festa ma ho un'idea migliore, voglio parlare di chirurgia. E io gli ho detto: è un'idea talmente assurda che mi piace, la facciamo. Quindi da adesso in poi parleremo di chirurgia al cinema, vedremo 7 clip di film che ha scelti tutti lui. E io direi di iniziare perché è un programma molto ricco. Vediamo subito la prima clip.
Oh, why surgery? Well, because as you said, it's an absurd idea. Yeah, why surgery? I don't know. It's always surgery is always very real on one hand, or not, as in the case of the older movies that we'll see. And it's such a interesting plot device, as in this movie, where Paul Henreid is giving himself a scar so that he'll look exactly like another person who looks. He stumbled on his double, somebody who's played by Paul Henreid in this town that he's come to. And the double doesn't resemble him only in the respect that he has a scar on his right cheek. So Paul Henreid gives himself a scar so that he can murder that person and take his identity. So that's like an interesting plot device. That's not something you can get away with now, but they did it all the time in noirs in the 40s, people assuming other people's identities, sometimes murdering them to take their identities, sometimes stumbling upon a dead body and going, well, I guess I'll be that guy. This one is particularly preposterous because Paul Henreid resembles the other person played by Paul Henreid in every single particular except not having the scar. And interestingly, you saw him rip the thing open at the end. You haven't seen the whole movie, have you?
No, not this one, honestly no.
So he rips the thing open. It's the container for the negative and the print, which he copied the scar from, a picture of the person whose identity he's going to assume. And he doesn't realize, but the people at the lab who developed the picture for him flipped the negative, so he's just scarred himself on the wrong side of the face. And even more interestingly, because who would do this? It's kind of totally without consequences. Everybody he meets in his new assumed identity doesn't notice that he now has a scar on the wrong side of his face.
Il noir è un termine coniato dai critici francesi, ma è un genere inizialmente almeno tipicamente americano. Tu apprezzi i noir non americani, li hanno fatti in Corea, in Francia ovviamente, anche in Italia c'è qualche tentativo, ma è certamente una cosa quintessenzialmente americana. Ci sono quelli californiani, quelli newyorkesi, e c'è anche una grande tradizione letteraria, no? Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler, James Cain, eccetera. Ti piacciono quelli non americani?
I haven't actually seen a lot. I've seen some Mexican noir, which is interesting. Mexican movies of the 40s and 50s, almost all of them. It seems like every movie made then in Mexico was shot by Gaby Figueroa. And they were interesting because they're so urban and so like the Hollywood noirs that I'm familiar with. But everything is just a little different because it's Mexican noir and all the music is, I must say the music in some of them is great. Those are all interesting and nicely shot. French and other sorts I'm not really that familiar with.
Passiamo alla seconda. Abbiamo, dicevo, un programma estremamente ricco, è un film molto più recente del 1991. Ho il dovere di dirvi che una delle sequenze che vedremo, la quarta per la precisione, è estremamente violenta e grafica. In maniera preoccupante, forse tragica. Ma a differenza della precedente, qui non siamo in un mondo di chirurgia plastica dove qualcuno cerca di cambiare la propria fisionomia o per rendersi più bello, o per rendersi più bello o bella o per nascondersi. Qui siamo nel mondo proprio della chirurgia. Perché ti affascina?
Yeah, well that's very different. Right, this is not plastic surgery. Although there have been more contemporary movies with plastic surgery, but the whole identity switch thing fell out of fashion, sadly. I I don't know. It's an interesting setting for the movie. It's an interesting thing to get the story going. I don't know if you can even tell in that, but that was William Hurt, and the other surgeon was Mandy B52. Yeah. Very different, obviously, than the 40s surgery, and a lot more realistic. And I kind of like William Hurt. Totally, by the way, I must say, I never really liked Paul Henry. He's very hard to like. He played that goody-goody Victor Laszlo in Casablanca, and you figure, really, Ingrid Bergman is going away with him?
I still don't believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul Henry, I don't know. William Hurt is really good. It's a good movie from the 90s, I think like early 90s.
91.
91.
But why you're fascinated also in surgery, not plastic surgery?
Well, the first one was plastic surgery, and in fact there are a lot of good noirs with plastic surgery. The one where Humphrey Bogart gets a new face. Actually, some schlub gets a new face, which turns out to be Humphrey Bogart's. And actually we'll see a 60s, but we won't talk about that yet. I'm sorry, my mind just excused itself. What was the question?
Why do you like surgery in general?
Again, you know, don't make it all me, Antonio. You asked for a theme. I was casting about. It's a good, it's an interesting device, and it's interesting how it changes over the course of the several decades of movies that we're going to see.
And in fact I want to show something from the 60s. The title is Seconds. Vediamo la terza clip, un film degli anni 60. Il titolo è Seconds e il regista è John Frankenheimer. Si nota come cambia la musica tra gli anni 60 e gli anni 90. Qui abbiamo una musica solenne, ridondante, che, come dire, sottolinea, no? L'importanza di questa operazione. Nel film degli anni 90 invece è giocosa, scherzosa finché non c'è un problema. Questa è la prima cosa di cui voglio parlare.
Yeah, this is very serious, and the whole movie, Seconds, is very serious. Incidentally, all of these movies, if you haven't seen them, each of them is really interesting and worthwhile to see in its entirety. Rock Hudson is really good in this. He's like surprisingly, I don't know why it surprised me. I had just seen him in...
It was not Laurence Olivier in general.
He was not, he was a pretty boy, a very big, pretty boy. But he's really good in Giant, actually, which I'd also just seen fairly recently, and he's very good in this. This is a very serious movie about, that's why I like some of these things. They're so preposterous but serious. I mean, the whole idea of changing identity is just preposterous and kind of, as I said before, kind of great that you used to be able to blithely do that in movies. The idea of this one is that Rock Hudson, who's an alienated, since it is the 60s, he's kind of an organization, not Rock Hudson, the schlub he was before he's turned into Rock Hudson, is an alienated businessman, commuter in New York who thinks that there must be more to life than his New York commuter experience. So he pays a lot of money to this company run by Will Geer to be turned into, as it turns out, Rock Hudson, and he gets sent to California to assume a new identity in Malibu as an artist. And you know, now you go, that's a movie? But you know, you could do that in the 60s.
Oggi non te lo farebbero fare un film con questa storia.
Yeah, no, totally impossible to make a movie like this, again, because it's so serious and silly and people just wouldn't buy it at this point. But actually, interestingly, since you asked, even the previous movie, The Doctor, the one with William Hurt, where we saw the kind of very realistic surgery, it's a story about people that you or I might know, kind of realistic people who have kind of problems that you and I might be familiar with. And it stars William Hurt, and it's kind of it's kind of a small movie just about a couple of characters. And that's a movie that you couldn't make now. I mean, a movie studio would not make that movie now and put it in movie theaters. It just would not happen. I mean, it's just a very different world for movies in that respect, too, obviously.
Talking about the industry, a few days ago, Martin Scorsese said that the Marvel films don't look like real films, but like theme park. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, kind of, yes.
Ho fatto una domanda sulla dichiarazione di Martin Scorsese che ha detto che i film della Marvel, ma anche tratti da altri fumetti, sembrano più parchi a giochi che veri film.
Yes, it's kind of unfortunate. I mean, not even unfortunate that that's what movies are, it's just unfortunate that that's all that movies are that come from the studios. Or so it kind of seems. Yeah.
Una domanda sul regista di questo film, John Frankenheimer, che secondo me è un regista molto sottovalutato, a mio modo di vedere un ottimo regista, che ha fatto anche dei bei film come Il treno, forse lo ricorderete, con Barbara Casio.
Yeah, The Train was a good movie, yes. What else did he make?
French Connection 2.
French Connection 2.
He started with television.
Yeah, live television.
Yeah, what he did in television, I don't know. But he started with television.
Manchurian Candidate.
Oh, Manchurian Candidate.
Manchurian Candidate is probably his most famous film, Grazie. But
yeah, it's another serious identity thing. Yeah,
How do you like it? Do you think it's a...
Yeah, Manchurian Candidate was good. Yeah, he's good. Sure.
So, you know, my point is that most of the directors here, not all of them, but most of them are considered B director. Steven Sekeli, the first director. It seems that if you want to use surgery, you're inside a genre that uses this kind of tools, and that genre is a B movie genre. Is that correct?
For as long as there were B movies, yeah, that's probably true. I can't think of an A movie with, although, you know, Humphrey Bogart, that thing.
Dark Passage. Dark Passage is the
Passage,
title. La
yes.
fuga in italiano.
Yeah, right.
Ora c'è la sequenza di cui vi ho parlato, non dite che non vi avevo avvertito, vediamo la quarta sequenza. Ho una doppia domanda. Cosa ti piace di questo film e perché questa sequenza?
Well, this sequence, because the later ones where it gets really graphic, might have disturbed people. This movie, because Mike is kind of great, he's got a lot of brio, it's a really good movie. One of the pleasures of watching movies from from foreign countries, is that you see a lot of actors that you've never seen before, and you go, they're totally unfamiliar, and you go, wow, she's great, that actress is great. So is the guy. To put it in a little bit of context, it's a Takashi Miike movie called Audition, and the guy who's being, all right, she's not a surgeon in as much as she's not licensed or accredited, but he's a middle-aged widower who's in the movie business, sort of, and arranges auditions for a movie which is non-existent in order to meet women because he wants to remarry. It's all a very, also 90s, I think, but all a very kind of...
99.
A very Me Too kind of story. And this, you know, this is what happens.
You like the other films from Ike? I think this is one of his most famous and probably his best, although, because he's a very uneven filmmaker, don't you think?
Actually, I've only seen 2 or 3 of his other ones, and this is definitely the best from among the ones I've seen.
A Hollywood farebbero girare una scena così, sarebbe possibile?
You know, I don't know. I don't actually go to a lot of Hollywood horror movies. They certainly make a lot of them, but I'm a little out of touch in that respect. How graphic are they? They
Silly graphic.
Yeah. I think you actually kind of could. I don't think that kind of violence or graphicness is a bar to to make it. Some of them are kind of graphic, right? I don't actually know.
Did it ever happen that a studio or producer censored one of your films? Say, this scene will never happen. Se è mai successo che gli hanno censurato una scena o qualcosa in un film?
No, because, you know, we write scripts that reflect what the movie's going to be, and they've read the script and they're committing to doing that movie. So no, we've never really faced any resistance in any respect to studios trying to impose changes on what we do, just because they figure, all right, this is what the script is, what the movie is going to be, and we're confident that you, at least technically, will be competent, so we're in, you know what I mean? Anybody who's interested in doing one of our movies is not interested in doing something but changing it somehow.
Ti è mai capitato di censurarti, te o Joe, censurare voi stessi?
Oh yeah, well, censoring yourself is something you do all the time. It's just called, you know, editing, in terms of whether it's literally editing at the end of the process or self-editing in the writing process. Yeah, especially, I mean, since Joel and I write together, it is a constant back and forth. The whole process is one of saying, well, how about this? And the other person might say, yeah, sure, and maybe elaborate on it, or go, no, that really doesn't make sense in terms of what we're talking about, in terms of the preceding discussion.
You and Joel are the only directors that I know that made a director's cut of a film which is shorter than the original version. Sono gli unici registi che hanno fatto un director's cut più corto del film quando è stato distribuito. Il film è Plot Simple. How did it happen?
We looked at it, I think because they were going to show a clip for some tribute to Fran, I believe, and we both looked at the movie and went, wow, this could use a little tightening up. So actually we had the opportunity to do it. Somebody wanted to put out a DVD for a new DVD of the movie, technically improved, kind of restored. So it was an opportunity to cut, not dramatically, there's nothing missing from the original, how the movie was originally released, but it was an opportunity to just do a better job editing, actually.
And would you like to edit any of your other films?
I don't watch them, except, again, where was I? I saw a clip from Barton Fink, which was I really enjoyed the performances, but it was the first scene between John Turturro and the studio head that he goes out to see. And, you know, yeah, the one thing I thought watching it was, the actors are kind of great, and some of these cuts are really loose.
So preparatevi per un director's cut più corto di Barton Fink. Abbiamo parlato dei film di Joel e Ethan, vediamone uno che ha a che fare con la chirurgia. Cosa ti piace di questa scena? How do you like this scene?
Yeah, because, you know, talk about non-licensed and non-accredited. Yeah, it's good. It's one of the best parts of the movie, although there's a lot of good stuff in that movie. It's just so, well, here's the ultimately contemporary version of the kind of surgery theme, because, you know, Sandy Bullock is a jackass and, you know, has probably seen something on the internet and thinks she knows how to administer a tracheotomy. And this is my point, that, you know, now you see shit on the internet and everybody's an expert on everything, and that's what happens.
There is also progress. In the 40s and 50s we have the solemn music, also in the 60s. Then the music becomes more fun, and now there is a comedy. You know, the surgery as a transition. How do you like the acting of these two? Wonderful.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, no, they're really good. They're both really funny. Everybody in it is good. The paramedic is good. The guy sipping the soda at the counter is good. They're all pretty good.
But the director, Paul Feig, this is a Hollywood film, and it's a good comedy. Do you think that this is a typical Hollywood product, or there is an independent spirit, at least in this?
Oh, it seems pretty, well, it seems pretty mainstream to me, and actually Hollywood is not, even contemporary Hollywood is not a dirty word to me. It seems pretty non-independent to me. I mean, big, funny movie stars, and it's kind of a big Hollywood movie.
Ora vediamo.
Isn't it?
Sì, absolutely. I like when you say that Hollywood is not a bad word for you. Totally agree. Vediamo adesso finalmente la scena del loro film. Il primo è L'uomo che non c'era. Or the look of the film is like a B-movie of the 50s or 60s. Ho chiesto se l'apparenza del film, il look del film è dal film di serie B.
Yeah, we're like, we like the old forms. I don't know, it's just, you know, the people like leering into the camera of the guy who's just regained consciousness. It's, you know, that's something you wouldn't see in The Heat or a contemporary feeling movie. We kind of like the old stuff.
Perché avete girato in bianco e nero? Why black and white?
Well, you know, actually kind of for the B-movie feeling. Well, not that it's why that clip is here, why that movie is represented here, but it's weirdly, it is kind of about the themes that Seconds was about, the alienated guy, and it's kind of super serious treatment of somebody who feels like he doesn't quite belong in this world, but it's given a very B-movie treatment, and the black and white was just important for that, so that it'd feel like, I don't know, you know, there's something great about black and white. It just instantly makes it a movie. It's just, all of a sudden, it's like right there. I don't even mean generically, I mean just in terms of feeling like you're in another world. And you know, for us especially, we're always trying to, it's always a different world.
This is a very sad story, but you often laugh while watching it. Do you consider it a comedy or a tragedy? Un film dove si ride ma è molto triste, una commedia o una tragedia?
You know, we never really worry about that, or I mean, think about it in those terms. You're always allowed to laugh, and the more horrible it is, you know, the more people laugh sometimes. We really don't, I almost want to say don't think about it generically in any terms, because we kind of don't. It's just a story kind of, you know, it's something we make up that just kind of extends its own, seems to have its own kind of logic, and where that fits in generically among other movies is an after-the-fact judgment, as opposed to something we think about it, writing it or shooting it.
Io so che avevate un progetto molto bello che si chiamava Verso il mare bianco, To the White Sea, that never happened, che non è mai stato girato, e il motivo, da quello che mi è stato detto, è che era un film di guerra ambientato a Tokyo durante la seconda guerra mondiale, quasi completamente muto. Nonostante loro avessero scritturato una grande star come Brad Pitt, non sono riusciti a farlo.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. Unfortunate that we didn't get to make it. It was based on a James Dickey novel about a bomber in a B52 gets shot down over Tokyo the night before the firebombing of Tokyo. And we actually did a fair amount of work on it, not pre-production work, and it ended up being unfeasible to make. It was a silent movie, yes, in the respect that it was an American who was in Japan during the war, Second World War, and obviously because of that couldn't speak to anybody, so there was no dialogue. It was kind of an adventure movie, survival movie, although the main character, it is caught and killed at the end. It's a survival movie where the main person ends up not surviving, and that might be related to the fact that we didn't manage to get it made.
Solo per la cronaca, il bombardamento di Tokyo di cui ho parlato è stato uno degli atti più cruenti della seconda guerra mondiale. Si dice che siano morte più persone che Hiroshima e Nagasaki. Vediamo la successiva clip, anche questa è presa da un film di Ethan Coen. Vi voglio però leggere il titolo italiano perché è abbastanza incredibile. Il titolo originale è Intolerable Cruelty, cioè crudeltà intollerabile. In italiano si chiama Prima ti sposo e poi ti rovino.
There's no surgery. Well, you know, they're about to go into surgery. Really, we should have ended with The Heat. You can't follow that scene from The Heat. The preposterous plot things seem to have migrated to soap operas. Billy Bob Thornton is about to operate on his own daughter because no other surgeon can deal with the infarct. I don't know, pre-surgery, but that wouldn't have looked as good up there.
Ti posso chiedere perché nei vostri film quasi sempre o molto spesso i personaggi o sono molto stupidi o fanno cose stupide?
Well, if everything is thought out well and works, there's no drama. Things going wrong is what makes the story go.
Voglio anche chiederti un'altra cosa. Quando lavorate con gli attori, lasciate molto all'improvvisazione perché si ha la sensazione che sono così liberi, così felici di recitare con voi, oppure recitano esattamente quello che scrivete?
Oh no, it's not much improvisation. Certainly not on the set. No, it's all pretty scripted. We'll change stuff a little bit if lines don't taste good to the actors, especially in rehearsal. You're free to change things a bit, but that's kind of nibbling around the edges as opposed to developing. It's certainly, none of it is improvisational in the sense of developing what the scene is about or what basically the characters are going to say. We're kind of, Mike Lee does that, and that's great. There are people who can do it and are great at it. It's just not.
Robert Altman.
Robert Altman, yeah, sure. Yeah, I just saw California Split again. Yeah.
Elliot Gould e George Segal, California Poker in italiano. Rivelo un piccolo segreto, sono andato recentemente a trovarli nel loro ufficio a Tribeca, a New York, e mi aspettavo di vedere, avete visto i film che fanno, li conosciamo tutti, dei poster o dei loro film o di film in qualche modo affini al loro cinema. Invece la prima cosa che ho notato è un grande poster di Lancelot du Lac, di Lancelot e Ginevra di Robert Bresson. Come mai voi amate un cinema così lontano e distante dal vostro e cosa amate di quel cinema? What do you like about it?
Well, it's funny, when you say Bresson, I just thought about A Man Escaped.
Any Bresson film.
And that's about somebody who's not an idiot, and he's, you follow very meticulous, it's all very procedural, and he figures out what he's going to do, and you watch him doing it, and there's real pleasure in that, and that just totally contradicts what I just said about there being no drama unless people are idiots.
But what do you like about Bresson?
Oh, there's something that's almost like hypnotic about the dryness, And again, interesting actors and non-actors, and a donkey, speaking of non-actors, even that's interesting.
Siamo arrivati alla fine del nostro programma, ma ho una piccola sorpresa io per Ethan. Ho scelto a mia volta una scena di chirurgia plastica. In realtà Ethan, conoscendo a memoria il cinema, ma in particolare questo tipo di cinema, ne ha parlato nel corso della nostra conversazione. Vediamo l'ultima sequenza. Perché un uomo in fuga che si fa fare una chirurgia plastica per cambiare faccia e diventa Humphrey Bogart. My question is, do you think Humphrey Bogart was a great face or a great actor?
Yeah, well, it's hard you can't separate that anymore, because when you think about Humphrey Bogart, the person, you think about him inside that face. That's such an interesting thing. I mean, looking at that again, it's so much like the Rock Hudson thing, and I'm sure there are other noirs like that where the character looks in the mirror to see like who he is now. there's something really compelling about that. It's kind of great, isn't it? I don't even know what it is, the whole idea of identity, being able to change it, or having a new face, or there's something narratively fantastic about it. Fantastic in two senses.
I agree. My point is not important if it was a great actor with that face.
Yeah, okay.
Ho promesso a Ethan che prendiamo una sola domanda. Il primo che alza la mano ha diritto a fare la domanda. Eccolo qua. Una sola, one question. Prego. E lei. Quarta fila.
Thank you, very nice talking to you, and thank you very much for your films, of course. My question is, I've noticed a rise in the interest for the Western films, not only yours, but for example the last film by Tarantino is a Western about Western, also the last album by Bruce Springsteen is about Western stars. And I am a film student and I am studying this, so my question is there a deeper reason why American artists are focusing on Westerns, or it's just, there's no particular reason? Thank you.
Immagino avete capito tutti, il signore ha chiesto come mai c'è un ritorno al western nella musica, nel cinema, e se c'è un particolare motivo politico, antropologico.
Yes, it's an interesting question. There may be a reason, but I don't know it. Westerns, it's like others, kind of like the things we've been talking about. They're fashions in narrative. Things go in and out of style, and I have no idea why. Westerns have gotten deeply out of style in the 60s. They kind of came back with the 70s, the Clint Eastwood movies that you think about from that period, and then they went deeply out of style again. And as you say, they're seem to be kind of coming back again. I have no idea why. I don't know.
Do you mind if I pose the last question? In 100, 200 years, which film you want to be remembered for? Is there a film? Okay, let me rephrase it. Which one is your favorite film?
I don't have one in terms of watching them again, because I don't. But I'm very pleased that we got to make A Serious Man, because it's so connected to my childhood, and the kind of, again, you want to go to a different world, or I do, in watching a movie and being able to recreate that world that doesn't exist anymore except for ourselves, me and Joel, and actually people like us. There was something very rewarding about the experience of making that movie, which separates it from the other ones. Yeah.
Grazie. Ringrazio tutti voi e ringrazio Ethan Coen. A più tardi.